Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. India and Mauritius elevate ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Both sides signed multiple MOUs in science and technology, oceanography, administrative training, telemetry and more. Making every possible effort to deal with recent unrest, says Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel. Talks between young protesters and army on to choose new interim leader. US Federal Bureau of Investigation says it has recovered the high-powered rifle used by the shooter to kill conservative influencer Charlie Kirk in Utah. Adds it has images of the college-age gunman. And the UN Security Council set to convene on Friday at Poland's request as it accuses Russia of violating its airspace with a drone raid. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted his Mauritian counterpart Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam in the holy city of Varanasi today. Both the leaders held bilateral talks, further strengthening civilizational connect, spiritual bond and deep-rooted people-to-people ties, which have shaped the special and unique relationship between India and Mauritius. Reaffirming a shared vision for peace and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region and for the Global South, the leaders of India and Mauritius held delegation-level talks as well. Both the sides comprehensively reviewed the enhanced strategic partnership between India and Mauritius and identified new opportunities to deepen collaboration across sectors of mutual interest, which will drive shared prosperity for both countries, their peoples and the region. India and Mauritius inked several agreements in Varanasi today. The pacts include Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the field of science and technology, agreement between CSIR, National Institute of Oceanography and Mauritius Oceanography Institute, Memorandum of Understanding between Karma Yogi Bharat and Administrative Reforms of Mauritius, cooperation in the field of power sector, MOU on Indian grant assistance for implementation of Phase 2 of small development projects. Other pacts also include the renewal of the agreement in the field of hydrography, cooperation in the field of space and cooperation for establishment of telemetry as well. Addressing the media along with his Mauritian counterpart, Prime Minister Modi stressed the ancient ties between the two nations, adding Mauritius is an important pillar of India's neighbourhood first policy as well as Vision Sagar, which is Vision Ocean.
मॉरिशस की आवश्यकताओं और प्राथमिकताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए एक स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक पैकेज पर निर्णय लिया है। यह इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मजबूत करेगा, रोजगार के नए अवसर पैदा करेगा और स्वास्थ्य सुविधाओं को सुदृढ़ करेगा। हम चागोस मरीन प्रोटेक्ट एरिया, एसएसआर इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के एटीसी टावर तथा हाईवे और रिंग रोड के विस्तार जैसी परियोजनाओं को भी आगे बढ़ाएंगे। This package is not an assistance, it is an investment in our shared future.
The Prime Minister also said that India is helping Mauritius in its renewable energy transition.
मॉरिशस में यूपीआई और रुपे कार्ड की शुरुआत हुई। अब हम लोकल करेंसी में व्यापार को सक्षम करने की दिशा में काम करेंगे। ऊर्जा सुरक्षा हमारी भागीदारी का एक अहम स्तंभ है। भारत मॉरिशस के एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन में सहयोग दे रहा है। मॉरिशस को 100 इलेक्ट्रिक बसें दी जा रही हैं, जिसमें से 10 पहुंच चुकी है। ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में संपन्न हुए कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पार्टनरशिप समझौते से इसे और बल मिलेगा। हमने तमारिन फॉल्स में 17.5 मेगावाट का फ्लोटिंग सोलर पावर प्लांट के निर्माण में सहयोग देने का निर्णय लिया है।
And Mauritius Prime Minister Dr. Naveen Chandra Ram Ghulam lauded India's long-standing support and partnership with Mauritius, saying that the country has benefited immensely from India's generous assistance and expertise in various sectors over the years.
Issues, Prime Minister Modi and I have held deep exchanges on pressing global challenges. As I said, also maritime security, but also climate change, and we will continue to work together. These discussions have culminated in the signing, you've just said, of several memoranda of understanding in the fields of community development, power, energy, science and technology, research, education, marine science and space research, which will guide and strengthen our cooperations in the years ahead. Another highlight has been the high-level business meeting held 2 days ago in Mumbai, which brought together the captains of industry, and it was very fruitful because there's in eagerness, because I've told them that don't forget we have professional access to a lot of markets in Africa. We are a member of SADC, we are a member of COMESA, and we are a member of the African Union. But especially with SADC, there's a lot of double taxation agreement treaties which India business people can also benefit. It will be a win-win situation.
India and Mauritius have taken a decisive step to deepen their partnership as well. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced that a special economic package will be extended to Mauritius with a key focus on the development of Port Louis.
Decision to offer a special economic package to Mauritius. This is a package that covers multiple elements. It includes the development of the port of Port Louis, development and assistance for surveillance of the Chagos marine protected area, blended financial assistance in the form of grants and lines of credit. The package will also contribute to safeguarding the waters around Mauritius and in the broader region, and Government of India will also extend budgetary assistance in the current financial year amounting to $25 million.
On trade, the Foreign Secretary confirmed that both the countries have already reached an understanding to settle transactions in local currencies. Discussions between the central banks are now underway to operationalize the move.
This is something on which an understanding has already been arrived at, but now at this stage there are discussions going on between the central banks of the two countries, because the appropriate accounts, the Nostro and Vostro accounts, have to be opened up in the banks. So the central banks on the two sides are discussing the technical aspects, and we expect that the understanding on trade in local currencies will be made operational very soon as the operational issues are dealt with.
Apart from this engagement, the day also saw Prime Minister Modi visiting flood-hit North Indian state of Uttarakhand. The PM travelled from Varanasi after holding the bilateral talks with his Mauritius counterpart. Now, there in Uttarakhand, Prime Minister Modi met the flood victims and interacted with them, trying to understand their woes. And this was in Uttarakhand's state capital, Dehradun. The PM also met the National Disaster Response Force and its state counterpart personnel who had been engaged in relief and rescue operations, and boosted their morale in reaching out to the marooned people in times of such mammoth tragedy. Later, Prime Minister Modi chaired a high-level review meeting in Dehradun to assess the progress of relief and rehabilitation efforts. Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi has delivered a sharp response to Switzerland at the 5th meeting of the 60th session of the UN Human Rights Council, calling its comments on India surprising, shallow and ill-informed. India's remarks came a day after Switzerland called on India to take effective measures to protect minorities and uphold the rights to the freedom of expression and the freedom of the media, end quote. India urged Switzerland to focus on its own domestic challenges, pointing to issues such as racism, systemic discrimination and xenophobia.
I would also like to respond to the surprising, shallow and ill-informed remarks made by Switzerland, a close friend and partner. As it holds the UNHRC presidency, it is all the more important for Switzerland to avoid wasting the Council's time with narratives that are blatantly false and do not do justice to the reality of India. Instead, it should focus on its own challenges such as racism, systematic discrimination and xenophobia. As the world's largest, most diverse and vibrant democracy, with a civilizational embrace of pluralism, India remains ready to help Switzerland address these concerns.
Let's get you updates from the Himalayan Kingdom of Nepal now, as consultations are underway between Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel, Nepali Army Chief Ashok Raj Sigdel and representatives of Gen Z youth movement on Thursday. Nepal's President said he's making every possible effort to address the country's ongoing challenges from within constitutional boundaries. Representatives of Gen Z were seen participating in a cleaning up drive or campaign on the streets on Thursday. Employees of the burnt offices have also been active in cleanup and document collection. Members of civil society have urged Gen Z to look for an outlet in the current political circumstances with the participation and under the guardianship of the President, while a curfew remains in place in the Kathmandu Valley till 6 a.m. September 12. However, the Tribhuvan International Airport has been reopened. Tourists with valid tickets are being facilitated by security personnel to reach the airport as well. Also, more than 192 inmates stopped from escaping from district prison in Saptari, and in a separate incident, 2 died in clashes in Ramechhar. Meanwhile, death toll from Gen Z demonstrations reached 34 on Thursday, and more than 11,000 were also counted among the injured. India and the Asian Development Bank have signed an over $126 million loan agreement to promote rural development through sustainable and climate-resilient tourism in the Tehri Lake region of Uttarakhand. Union Finance Ministry said the project targets the Tehri Garhwal district, one of Uttarakhand's most climate-vulnerable and economically disadvantaged regions. It aims to benefit over 87,000 residents and 2.7 million annual visitors through improved tourism planning, upgraded infrastructure, enhanced sanitation and waste management and disaster preparedness. It also includes a livelihood matching grant program to support tourism led by women, youth, MSMEs and a universal access design for persons with disability. In Indonesia, the death toll from the devastating floods in Bali's Denpasar has risen to 14 on Thursday. Rescue workers have resumed their search for people who may have been swept away by flood waters. Hundreds of residents were evacuated to schools and mosques after torrential rains caused flooding and landslides. In London, a new centre showcasing tens of thousands of objects spanning the career of pioneering late British musician David Bowie opened its doors to the public on Saturday. He was one of the most influential musicians of his era who died of cancer at the age of 69 in 2016. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. The US marks the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks.
कम समय में ज्यादा मुनाफा, बस एक क्लिक में कमाल है।
अनजान लिंक्स पर क्लिक मत कीजिए, आरबीआई कहता है
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, a massive manhunt is underway in Utah after the fatal shooting of prominent U.S. conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Federal agents and U.S. state police are combing rooftops in surrounding areas, suspecting the gunman fired from a long distance during an event attended by nearly 3,000 people. FBI official Robert Bowles said on Thursday that investigators in Utah have recovered the weapon that was used to kill conservative activist Charlie Kirk. He described it as a high-powered rifle that was found in a wooded area where the shooter had fled.
Following yesterday's tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk, FBI agents have been working around the clock in coordination with our law enforcement partners. We are and will continue to work nonstop until we find the person that has committed this heinous crime and find out why they did it.
During the investigative process, we located a couple of persons of interest. We interviewed those individuals, and after releasing them and after clearing them of being suspects, they faced scrutiny, they faced threats. We asked the public to be patient with the investigative process. These individuals were not suspects, they were people of interest. We ask that you do not impose into those people and that investigative process. They don't deserve that harassment for being subject to that.
The murder has drawn condemnation from global leaders with warnings about the dangers of politically motivated violence. A spokesperson for the European Commission offered the EU's sincere sympathies to conservative activist Kirk's family.
The European Union condemns all forms of violence, and we offer our sincere sympathies to the families of the victims of this tragic incident, and we hope that the perpetrators are brought to justice.
And just a short while back, US President Donald Trump, who had earlier expressed his anger and dismay at the killing, has announced that he will posthumously award the highest US civilian honor to Charlie Kirk, which is the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, reeling under political pressure, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called off Peter Mandelson, UK's ambassador to the US, after his connection with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein came to very unflattering light. The decision came after his letters and emails sent to Epstein were published this week, resulting in his withdrawal from the most sought-after post. Speaking to the media, Britain's Foreign Ministry said that the latest revelations throw a different light on Mandelson's relations with Epstein, though Mandelson made a statement that he regretted the connection, which pacified Starmer, who had backed him in Parliament a little earlier. Belarus has freed 52 prisoners of various nationalities, and they are now on their way to Lithuania with the US delegation which negotiated their release. US President Trump had earlier called on Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to release detainees whom the US leader had described as hostages. It was the biggest batch of prisoners so far pardoned by Lukashenko, who is seeking to repair relations with the US after years of isolation and sanctions on his former Soviet state. But it was far short of the total of 1,300 to 1,400 prisoners whose release Trump had called for in a conversation with Lukashenko last month and in subsequent social media posts. Belarus's state news agency Belta said the prisoners freed on Thursday included 14 foreign nationals from Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, France, Britain and Germany. Belta also quoted Kowale, a lawyer acting on the behalf of Donald Trump, as saying Trump had told Lukashenko that the United States wants to reopen its embassy in Minsk. The UN Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting after Russian drones entered Polish airspace. Representatives from member countries will meet on Friday at Poland's request to discuss the unprecedented incursion into NATO territory. Poland's President Karol Nawrocki has spoken with Donald Trump, among other NATO allies, that have confirmed unity. However, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has emphasized the importance of allies' commitments and modernizing Poland's air force during a visit to military base Lask on Thursday.
I'm convinced that in some sense this lesson from last night should be a very strong argument for you, not only on your behalf, but also for Poland in our talks with all allies. I will do everything I can. I will bend over backwards to ensure this.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin on Thursday dismissed statements by Warsaw and other European countries. Well, the bell of hope rang out at St. Paul's Chapel in New York to mark the moment at 08:46 hours New York time when the first of two planes hit the World Trade Center Twin Towers on the 11th of September back in 2001. Meanwhile, in the day, a US flag was unfurled on the side of the Pentagon. The traditional honors and lives lost at the Pentagon and nearly 3,000 victims nationwide. Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Crown Prince of Dubai, together with India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, inaugurated the first international campus of the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad at Dubai International Academic City. Sheikh Hamdan welcomed IIMA to Dubai, describing its arrival as a symbol of deepening UAE-India collaboration and a step aligned with Dubai's ambitions to become a leading global hub for education and talent. The Dubai campus will be developed in two phases. Initially, it will operate out of Dubai International Academic City, and by 2029, a permanent campus will be established. IIMA Dubai launched operations with a full-time one-year MBA program structured across 5 terms. The minister also planted the Ghaaf tree, national tree of the UAE, at the Indian consulate as part of the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam initiative. He said that the tree will stand as an evergreen testament of India-UAE friendship. The UK-India Business Council has organized a day-long technology conference in New Delhi on Thursday. DD India's Deepika had an exclusive conversation with UK-India Business Council's chair, Richard Heald, who talked about the agenda of the technology conference, the FTA between India and the UK, and further appreciated recent liberalization of the GST in India, calling it a very good announcement for business opportunities.
We are here with us with Mr. Richard Heald, who is the chair of UK-India Business Council. Mr. Heald, thank you so much for giving your time to DD India.
Not at all, Deepika. Nice to be here.
When we talk about the Technology Summit, which you are organizing under the flagship of UK-India Business Council, what is the agenda and the expected outcome of this conference?
Well, the agenda is really all about raising the awareness of what technology means to Indian companies and what technology means to Indian companies and what their needs are. I mean, it comes against the context of the free trade agreement, and that is all about finding areas of opportunity where we can collaborate, we can co-create, and really make the economic relationships stronger.
Since you mentioned about free trade agreement, how do you see India and UK's bilateral relationship in terms of trade, economy and culture?
To the FTA, CETA as you might call it. The first is tariffs, where there is an immediate and measurable impact in terms of the fact that a large number of tariffs that are borne by Indian companies into the UK are going to be eliminated in short order, and likewise for UK companies here. So that's a major win, and that will encourage, I think, trade between the two countries. The second area, which I think is almost, dare I say it, more important, is around ease of doing business.
And also, when we talk about business, India is on its path to become the third largest economy. How do you, being the chair of the UK-India Business Council, see India on the progressive front, especially on the global map?
Well, I think that's a really important point, because, I mean, obviously Viksit Bharat 2047 is a real milestone and landmark, and there are huge ambitions in terms of becoming a developed nation, whatever developed nation means. So I see the role of the FTA as, if you like, encouraging UK's support into that process. India will obviously achieve that because it's growing so fast, but we can accelerate that process in ways that are beneficial to India, as well as beneficial to the UK. But that is fundamentally what I think the free trade agreement is about. It's accelerating that. And I'd like to make another point, if I may, which is the recent liberalization announcements on GST, I think is another really good signpost that the operating environment within India is becoming extremely attractive. So taking everything together, I think it is a real important step.
All right. So there you heard Mr. Richard Heald, who talked about not only the free trade agreement, but he also talked about GST and how positively it is going to put an impact on the business for international borders. With camera person Gaurav, this is Deepika reporting for DD India, New Delhi.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code and download the app. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.